Hi everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Sharang Dhaimade. I represent Seed Global Education, and in this webinar today, we've got it's hosted proudly by the George Washington University and their School of Engineering and Applied Sciences, GWCs, as we proudly call it. We've got two very wonderful people here. We've got Dr. John Helveston, who is the director of GWC's data analytics programs, MS in data analytics program. He's here. And we also have Erin, who represents the graduate recruitment and admissions team. But we will talk a little more about them and what they have to offer. But before that, we want to hear a little bit from you and which cities you are joining in from. So use the chat option and tell us which city you are joining in from. That will give us some indication as to where you wonderful people are joining in from. My eyes are on the chat, and your fingers should be on the chat button where you can tell us. Aditya joining us from Mumbai. Welcome. Please tell us which cities across the world you're joining us from. I believe everyone has the option to chat. Oh, I think that was the issue. Okay. All right. Now the numbers and the names are coming in. Wonderful. Nishant is here from Delhi. Nathaniel is from Ghana. Welcome. Jayom is also from Mumbai. So we've got people here from Tirupati. Destine is from Ghana as well. Welcome to each and every one of you. Rinika is from Vellore. If you are studying at Vellore Institute of Technology, George Washington School of Engineering has an MOU with your university, VIT Vellore. So I think you stand, a good chance if you are planning to pursue your study abroad journey. We've got Pallav here from Mumbai, Maharashtra, and from different parts of the city and the country as well. Wonderful. Thank you to everyone. There are 190 of you, and all of you have done mention. Roy here from Kenya. Welcome, Roy, who has joined this session. And yeah, I think we're good to have a couple of introductions. As I mentioned, we have Dr. John Helveston. He's the Assistant Professor, Engineering Management and System Engineering, and he's also acting as the Director of the Data Analytics program offered by George Washington School of Engineering and Applied Sciences. He will talk a little more about his work in data analytics, his experience in China. He knows Mandarin as a language, and he's also an accomplished violinist and a swing dancer. So I think that's pretty awesome for Dr. John. And he obviously is, holds a PhD and MS in engineering and public policy from Carnegie Mellon, and a bachelor's in engineering sciences and mechanics from Virginia Tech. So Dr. John is going to take us through a little bit about this wonderful topic that we have, that he has worked on, which is using conjoint analysis to inform EV policy. So it's more about learning a new market research technique and how that technique is going to be useful in EV policy. So less of me and more of Dr. John and this wonderful masterclass. He's going to be speaking for around 30 to 35 minutes, and followed by that, we will have Erin, who's going to be talking a little bit about the George Washington School of Engineering, their admission requirements, some of those wonderful things that you might want to learn, especially if you want to pursue a study abroad MS program anytime in the near future, be it this year, be it in 2025, 2026, or even later on. Erin is going to be the best person to help you through your study abroad journey. So we will also run some poll questions, and then finally, we will end up with questions. So if you have any questions, we will answer all these questions. So use the Q&A tab if you want to ask the panelists any questions, and we will take it from there. Thanks so much, everyone who's joined. If your friends haven't joined yet, we're just starting off. So please tell them to join as well. Over to you, Dr. John. Firstly, thank you so much for taking our time to do this. And we can't wait to hear what you have to learn about this wonderful topic.
All right. Well, thanks, everyone. And thank you for joining. I'm looking at the count. It keeps going up. We're going to break 280 here in a minute. So this is quite the audience. This is a packed house. And I would also, ask when are you calling from? And not just where. I'm sure many of you are up late. So I appreciate your attention at a late hour. I'm just starting my day over here. Anyway, I'll say a little bit about myself. Sharon gave a a nice introduction. My background's a little bit different as an engineer. I was always focused on sustainability and trying to solve the technical problem. How do we get cleaner technologies? How do we get better batteries? How do we get, better vehicle technology? But then, as he said, I spent a lot of time in China. I was working there. I worked in wind energy for General Electric, and then I worked in the automotive industry for a little while. And the things I found was policy was really driving a lot of everything. The technology was coming along, but it was always ahead of the policy. And I think that's still the case today. We always need to keep teaching and educating our policymakers about what's actually happening on the ground and the implications of the new technologies emerging and why we need them. So I went back and did my PhD in engineering and public policy. I got very focused on the policy impacts of the engineering and technical world. So that's still where a lot of my research lies. And so I'm going to give some presentation here about a particular method I use. So I'll get started. Hopefully you can all see my slides. This is sort of my three topic areas that I do a lot of work in: sustainable vehicles, so mostly electric vehicle work; market and policy analysis, so how are market dynamics impacting this industry, quantifying those things; and the relationship between the US and China. I do a lot of work in here because these two countries have a very strong, important relationships around these technologies, around batteries and EVs. And so but I'm going to mostly talk about sort of market analysis today, one of my core kind of tools. So this is me, again, my background, kind of where I've done my education, schooling. I also spent 2 years at Boston University. They had an Institute for Sustainable Energy there, and I was a postdoc for 2 years before joining here at GW. I am the director of our Master's in Data Analytics. So this is a joint program that's managed between my department, which is the Engineering Management and Systems. So this is where I am a professor, and also joint with Computer Science. And so we have a very good relationship between our two departments. There's a lot of overlap in our work. So I kind of administer this program. This is my lab. As I said, this is my kind of research statement. I study consumers, firms, markets, and policies. And how does that affect technology change? How do we go from carbon-intensive technology to sustainable technology that are low carbon? And I'm going to, like I said, focus a lot on electric vehicles, but also on other things like solar panels and wind turbines. And so these are the types of questions I ask. And I'll preface this by saying this is, I think, this whole talk I'm going to give is a good example of the kind of work. I think it's a little bit different at GW. A lot of people are interested in policy outcomes here. It's not just me. We're in the heart of DC. We're in the nation's capital. So we're interested in making these connections between the technology and how does this impact policy making. And so I'm going to cover this one particular data analysis method that I've used, but it's just one method. There's loads of methods that we cover, and in our program, you'll learn a lot about machine learning techniques. There's a lot of work going on in artificial intelligence. So this is just one piece from my own lab, my personal lab. So here's questions I ask. How can we get people to buy a more efficient car? Oftentimes those cars cost more up front. Maybe it's a hybrid, maybe it's electric. What can we do to convince people that that's a worthwhile investment to make? How will emerging technologies like autonomous cars or electric vehicles compete against the existing ones, gas cars? And would people be willing to pay a premium if they knew that they could reduce their pollution? Is that true or false? And all of these questions, the answers depend on knowing what people want. So at the end of the day, this is the main thing I'm really focused on is this. How do you know what people want? How can I estimate that? How can I quantify someone's preferences? And so that's what I try to do. I try to read the crystal ball, but we don't have crystal balls. That's science fiction. Instead we use surveys. So if we can't look into something mysterious like this, we're gonna go to the people themselves and ask them questions. So this is the idea behind what is called conjoint analysis. It is a controlled experiment. It's a survey-based method, and I have spent a lot of time doing a lot of studies using this approach. I am also a software developer. I mean, I have written several packages for the R programming language. that support this approach. So I'm pretty embedded in the conjoint approach, and I teach a whole course actually on this method. I'm teaching it right now. Every fall, I teach this class. But the idea is, we have a technology, let's say a phone, and most technologies really they're complex products. They have a lot of different features. Obviously, there's a price you pay for them, but there's also something maybe like the battery life in this case. What's the brand or the operating system? How good is the signal quality that you're getting? And there's other features, maybe the screen size, right? And when you're buying a phone, you're comparing all these different features, and you're trying to buy the phone that has the best product for you, whatever meets your preferences. And so as designers, as engineers, we're often looking for, what should I focus on? Should I focus on improving my signal, or should I focus on improving my battery? Either one's going to cost something. I need to put some R&D effort somewhere, but which one do people actually want to pay for? And if we don't know that, then it's really hard to decide, what should I do? What policy should I take? Should I go in this direction or this direction? So you can use this tool for product design. Like I said, do you optimize the battery or the signal, right? Or you can also use it for policy analysis. Which policy should I choose? This one or this one? Which one might be more effective in moving people in the direction we might want? So it's hard to answer this question. If you go out and ask someone, hey, do you want a phone with a better battery life? They're going to say yes. Of course. I mean, like who doesn't want more battery life? Who doesn't want a phone that lasts longer? I mean, and that's not very informative though, because there's always a trade-off. A longer battery life costs more. So really the question needs to be, how much are you willing to pay for that increased battery life? And now people's opinions might change. So rather than ask those questions directly, we ask them like this. We show people something that they've seen in the market before. People are used to buying a phone. If you own a phone, then you've done this at least once. You've gone out, you've looked at different phones, and you've made a choice. So this is what we do. We say, here's some phones, different brands, different signals, quality, battery, and price. Which would you choose? And we force you to make a choice. And your ideal phone may not be here, but you're going to still pick the one that's the best. I might go with this one because I like Android and it's cheaper. So my signal, whatever, it's not that great. But I'm always on Wi-Fi anyway. Okay, so I might go with this one. But you make your choice. And what we do is every time we ask this question, we change all of these values. So it's a randomized experiment where it's constantly changing what you're seeing. And every person is being asked a unique choice question. And so what's nice about this approach is it allows people to follow whatever decision process they typically use. If you prioritize price, then you're going to choose the lower price. If you prioritize the battery, then you're probably going to choose that more often. And by looking at all these choices, we'll have thousands of choices. We'll be able to model people's behavior. We'll be able to build some models that help us learn what's really driving that choice. How important is price relative to brand or battery life? So that's the heart of the idea. So the complexity in this survey is randomizing this experiment. And this is some of the software I've helped build, is how do you build survey software that does these sorts of randomizations for you. But that's the data collection phase. And then once we have the data, then we have to do a modeling phase. So I will explain the modeling just a minute. It's not too complicated, but I feel like we have to at least show it to understand what I'm talking about later. So this is the idea. The idea is we come up with a random utility framework. All right, we say that the general idea is you're going to make a choice based on utility, whatever that is. That can just be any number. All right, but fundamentally, that's what's driving your choices. When you look at a phone, you're going to say, in my case, this one has more utility for me than the other two. So I'm going to choose it. I choose the one with the highest utility. Very simple assumption. And then based on that, we build a simple linear sum product equation. Very, very simple. We say each attribute has some weight with it, these coefficients. I don't know what they are, but that's what I want to figure out. If I knew what these were, then I could perfectly predict your choice. I could just put in the weights and say, all right, based on the weights for you, I'm going to make a prediction about which of these has the highest utility. So all this just sums up to a number. And then we pick the utility that has the highest number. Right? That's the idea behind the modeling. Now, there's this other little term out here, which is our random error term. We don't know everything. This is the stuff that we know. We can observe what we're showing you in the survey. But there's other things that might matter to you that we don't observe. And so we're going to model that as noise. This is some distribution, something that is uncertain. So this final thing, this utility, it's not just one number, it's a probability, it's a density. I'm not sure exactly what it is. And we make some convenient assumptions about this. I don't need to get into why, but essentially we choose a convenient distribution so that we get a single, relatively simple formula for making probability choices. So using that, if I knew what these were, I could basically throw them into this equation, run it through this, and I end up with a probability. So the probability you're going to choose one phone over another. And that's the whole idea. We estimate it with maximum likelihood estimation. Again, I'm not going to cover all this stuff, but the point is this gives us a framework for figuring out what these are. And once we know what these are, then we can do a lot of interesting things. We can answer questions like this. On average, people are willing to play how much, to improve the battery life by some percent. And we can put the numbers here, right? If we knew what these coefficients were, we could know this quite well. And wouldn't that be nice to be able to tell Apple or Samsung, or whoever is designing the phone, if it's gonna cost you $100 to improve the battery by 20%, well, is this $100 or is this only $20? Then maybe you shouldn't do it, because you're not going to get as much back than it costs to make the improvement. Or maybe it's the other way around. It costs you $100 to improve it, but people are willing to pay $200 for that improvement. Well, then great. That's a good investment, right? So that's one thing we often do with these models. We also make predictions. We make market predictions. We'll take our phone and compare it against the competitors, and we'll say, what's the price need to be? Where's the price that maximizes my market share or my performance against a competitor? Obviously, if it gets too expensive, I start losing share. People will not want to choose my product because it's too expensive. And so it helps us do things like finding optimal pricing. What should the pricing be given what else is out there in the market? So this is the kinds of things we do using this approach. Like I said, it's survey-based. So the real critical part of all of this is getting good data, making sure that you're asking the question in a way that's understood, that you're getting people to take your survey who are the target, the group that you want to market to. So this is conjoint, analysis in 10 minutes. That's the method. And now I've set this talk up as a sort of choose your own adventure here, where these are 5 different studies. All of these I've done here at GW, and all of them working with my doctoral students. Several of these have also been supported by some of our master students. And we've tackled a lot of different topics. All of these have a policy component to them, and they're all published. And so you can go read the full studies if you'd like. But I'm going to ask you all to choose which. I'll maybe cover 2 of these. So I want people to type in the chat here. Give me 2 choices that you would like to pick, and we'll go down that path. I'm also, while I'm waiting here, I'm looking at the Q&A and making sure I'm not missing anything here. Okay. I think the questions are okay. I see EV and autonomous here. Okay. Maybe I'll do those 2 then. Low carbon fuels. Okay, there's more interest in that. Let's do that one. All right, I'll do that one first. Low carbon fuels is a interesting one we did. And then at the end of this, I'll come back. I see a post here talking about tell us about career opportunities, which I'll kind of wrap up at the end here. So let's do this one. I'll do this one and the electric vehicle incentive one. So low carbon fuels, this was published in 2019. So this was right after I started here, and it was some collaborators at Carnegie Mellon I worked with. And the idea was, imagine you had a car that could take different fuels. When you go to the gas station, you have different choices. You can choose the cleaner fuel. You can choose fuel that has more ethanol in it, maybe that has better emissions, or you can choose regular gas. But maybe you also have a plug-in hybrid, and you can choose to charge it as well. What would you do, and how much would you be willing to pay to fuel up on a fuel that's cleaner? So we designed the survey to look something like this. It's a little bit of a cartoon here, but the idea was, we imagined that you'd pull up and you have all these different options in front of you. And the question is, which of these features matter. We were curious about, do people care about where the fuel comes from? We know there are people who are concerned. This was fielded in the United States. People are concerned about fuel coming from overseas versus coming from domestic in the US. Obviously, they care about the cost. How much am I paying? But also, we thought, would it matter if I showed them the emissions? Would you care about, would you be willing to choose the lower emitting fuel, even if it cost more? So this is the cheapest here, obviously, but it's got a lot more emissions. This one's, you're paying a premium to reduce your emissions. And so we fielded the survey like this. And like I said earlier, one of the things we can do is calculate willingness to pay. So one of the things we plotted was, how much are people willing to pay to reduce those emissions? And we found that people were actually often choosing the cleaner fuel, even though it cost more. They were saying that on average, it's about $150 per ton of carbon dioxide avoided, which is actually a pretty significant number, which means that people are willing to increase their fuel by as much as 45% if they knew that they could really completely avoid their emissions. And this did vary across different groups. People's political views did impact this, whether they had, answers for other questions about how concerned they are for the environment. If you were more concerned, they were willing to pay a little bit more. But on the whole, this was kind of surprising to us. We thought there would certainly be a lot of people who would just not care at all and would mostly just go for the lower price. And so we got a very diverse sample, and we consistently got this result. So it did suggest that it matters if you tell people, if you tell people the emissions impact of their fuels, that might actually be important. And so this is maybe one of the policy implications, is maybe we should put the labels on the tanks. When you go refuel, people should know what is the impact of your choice here when you're refueling your vehicle. And maybe that would help people make cleaner choices. So that was one study. The other one that got people's attention, I think, was maybe this one. This was a more recent one and actually quite relevant, because some of the findings from this got implemented actually in the recent large bill, the Inflation Reduction Act, that was passed just 2 years ago. So this one, the idea was, we offer in our country, in a lot of countries, we offer different types of incentives for people to choose to buy an electric vehicle. And you can get like sales tax exemptions, you can get a tax deduction or a tax credit. But there's not been really a study that compared these together. Like, which of these was actually what people really want? Which one was more valuable? So what we did was we showed people 4 different types of incentives: tax credits, tax deductions, sales tax, and rebates, just direct rebate. The government just sends you money. And obviously, most people would probably choose the dollar that's higher, like you want the larger incentive. So in this simple example, maybe this one's more attractive, or this one of these two. But we varied the question. So every time the question was shown, it was a little bit different. And this was our survey. We had 2,500 people take our survey. It was a pretty mixed, diverse group of people. This was in 2021, so the IRA bill was passed in 2022. So we were trying to do this ahead of time so we could kind of inform the IRA bill to change the tax credit design. And so this was one of our findings. So these are all negative numbers, but what this means is the top number is sort of the baseline. 0 is a government's in rebate given at the time of sale. So when you go buy the car, the government just hands you money right there. And so every time you delay that, you don't get the money for 2 weeks later or 6 weeks later, that is less valuable to me, which makes a lot of sense, right? I'd want the money now. I don't want to wait for the money. And so what we're seeing is people value this less if you have to wait. And one of the real big ones, though, is this one. The current incentive up until this change was right here. It's a government incentive that comes when you file your taxes, once a year. So this is really kind of very bad. It's saying that if you could give me the money right when I buy the car versus waiting to file my taxes, that is worth $1,400 to me. So I would be willing to take that much less if I got it today, as opposed to having to wait. So that's just waiting for time. The time value of money was very important here. And so our obvious thing we recommended was that you should make the incentive available when you buy the car. And that's one of the things they changed. That started this year, January of this year. You can go to the dealer, you get the incentive right away. So this study actually quantified that, and it got a lot of discussion in DC around this idea. It did matter by a lot more for even lower income households, which makes, again, more sense. If you are in a lower income household, then getting the money now is even more impactful, and having to wait was way less valuable, over $2,000 less valuable to you. So that was one. And one of the other things we did was we said we went back in time and we calculated, based on that difference. Well, how much money would we have saved if we had just done it at the time of sale? And that's these red bars. So all of that was essentially wasted government spending that could have gotten the same outcome. Okay, so that's all. I mean, I could talk about all of these, but we don't have all day. I'd like to, spend some time talking about other things, and also give Aaron a minute to chat about our programs at GW. So I'll just say that this is, I think, kind of an interesting example of how we take quantitative insights, how we build models using data to inform an outcome. There's a real decision at the end of this that we write in all of our papers. And I think this is a lot of at the heart of what data analytics is. Your job, whether it's for informing the government or informing your company about what decision they should be making, our job is like, I say we're like modern miners. We're going out into the mines and we're digging through the data to find the gold. Where is the piece of information that is going to help us make the decision we need to make? So this is where this is kind of like just an example of, I think, doing that. And there's faculty all over GW who are doing this kind of work where we're trying to inform policy. The other thing I want to emphasize is, on top of, understanding the methods and the toolkit, learning how to write code effectively to implement these ideas, and also understanding how do you build a good model. It's also a lot more qualitative skills too. Like, how do I assess whether a data set is good or not? Is this data set even valid? Can I use this data? Is it going to have some inherent bias that I'm not aware of? I mean, these are things that we should really be thinking about, and we do a lot in terms of thinking in those ways in this program. And the last piece is communicating all of this. Your insight means nothing if nobody understands it, right? I have to take my story, my insight that I've gone, this complicated utility model. I'm not going to show that to the decision maker. I'm going to show them the final chart and explain to them what we're finding. This is what you should do. You should be changing how you do your tax incentives, right? So communication and learning how to give a good talk, and learning how to summarize and write up your results and explain it to decision makers who are not engineers, or who do not have the programming backgrounds that we might have, that's just so critical. So I would say, the students I see who leave this program, once they're done here, they go off and do all kinds of very interesting things. We've had, I think, a good amount of students who go into pharmaceuticals, actually. This is one main industry where there's just a ton of data analysis work. And that, in terms of at least just industries to go into, the skill sets we learn here are immensely valuable there. We also have just a lot of unique opportunities here in DC. A lot of our students get internships, especially over the summer between the 2 years, to work in different consulting firms, or contractors who work as contractors for the federal government. We're just in a very rich environment here, where we're so close to the federal government, where there's just a lot of projects happening all the time. And those people need people who know how to write code, who know how to work with data, who know how to work with databases, have very, very large data sets. And how do I architect that? How do I warehouse all this data and learn from it? This is it's all around in our backyard. So I think this is kind of a unique thing about being here at GW. You have access to a lot of those kind of opportunities here, and you can network with people there. So we also have lots of organizations in the area where people do regular meetups. There's a DC Data Club, and I think there's like 2,000 people in it, where they have weekly meetings where people go present some topic, and those are places to network and get to know people who are working in the space of data analytics in the district. So that's some of the things that are out there for you in this program. And of course, we have students who go back home with the skill set too, if they're coming from abroad, and they go home and are also wildly successful there. It's a very in-demand skill set, I would say. So I think that's most of what I wanted to say in terms of just the program and where our students go after. So let me try to look more now at the Q&A. And I think some of these Aaron might be better equipped to answer if there are technical things about the program. And let me just see if there's anything in here that's specific to something that I missed. Okay. Someone asked about where can I get EV data? Let me tell you, I'm always looking for EV data. This is my job is, like I said, I'm a miner. I'm always looking for good data, and it's hard. And this is why one of the reasons I use a lot of survey work is I go out and get my own data. I ask people questions, but can you tell us more about the application process? Okay, so that would not be me. That may be more Aaron. So I think maybe this is a good place for me to kind of pause for a minute. And if there's other questions that I can answer, you can post them and I can try to answer. Maybe I can also type the answers here and maybe turn it over to Erin and give her a minute to talk more.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. John. That was quite insightful. There will be more questions coming in. If there are any questions about the topic, and for Dr. John, he might be the best person to answer. He's going to be hanging in here for the next few minutes, answering any questions that you would like. Just before we move on to Erin, I have a couple of polls that I'd like to quickly ask, just to gauge some interest from you guys about when and, if you plan to start your MS programs, when are you planning to do so? You can see quite a few of you have already answered the questions. There are 390 of you. So please look at the poll that is on the screen. If you can't see the poll on your screen right now, click on the polls tab and kindly answer, just to gauge an understanding as to when you are planning to apply for your MS program, be it in the US, be it elsewhere, be it at GW, be it elsewhere. Erin might be one of the best people to give you some insights as to why you can consider GW. I'm going to keep this live for the next 15 seconds only so that it's on your screen for about a minute. The question on the screen is, which intake are you interested to applying for MS programs in the US 2025, which is the the upcoming intake 26, 27, or you're still thinking about when you're looking to apply. So these are some of the questions, and we waited and we've had over 100 of you that have answered, so thank you so much for that. I'm going to quickly share the results for the benefits of the panelists as well. We've got around 70 of you, 73% of you that are looking to start in 25 or in 26, and about 24 of you are slightly undecided if they want to work for some years, etc. And we will get some of those questions. We'll also ask Dr. John if it makes sense to maybe do a 1 year of work experience before they consider doing an MS program. So we'll take some of those questions, and I think I'm going to stop sharing this and over to you, Erin. Erin is representing the George Washington University School of Engineering and Applied Sciences. She's the Senior Associate Director of Graduate Recruitment and Admission. And, she's been there at GW, and she's, as mentioned, the best person to help you out with any questions relating to applications, scholarships, so on and so forth. And she's done quite a few of these, so she's going to be great. Erin, over to you.
Thank you so much. Can you see my screen okay? Hopefully it's good. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. It's great to see an awesome audience with us today. Over 300, nearly 400 people on the line. It's amazing. Great conversation today. As Sharang mentioned, I work with GW School of Engineering. I work with interested graduate students, so students who are interested in pursuing MS or PhD programs. Here at our university, I'm your point of contact for just helping to determine if this is the right fit for you, helping you navigate the application process, and then helping you navigate the student visa and enrollment process. So I'm glad to be here today talking to you. One of the things that I enjoy most about this job is having a chance to have conversations about what makes a university the right fit for a student. And so, of course, being here with you today, I would love it if you are interested in pursuing your studies at GW. We would certainly love to have you, but what I also want to help individuals think through is what matters to you when you choose a university and choose a program of study. So thinking through the program specifics, faculty, what faculty research areas are, what faculty areas of specialization are. For example, if you're particularly interested in electric vehicle research, you might find, Dr. Helveston or our team to be a great fit for you. But just knowing where your interests lie and seeing what a school specializes in. The location of the school, I think Dr. Helveston also did a great job of talking about GW and some of the things that are unique about our location in Washington, D.C. Some students may be looking for something different, and that's perfectly fine and understandable. Just thinking through what location means for you, what opportunities you are seeking out as you choose your university. The facilities, if you're in a CS or engineering field, research facilities, research laboratories, technology, systems matter for the work that you're doing. So just get to know a school and what they have available for students and researchers there. Career services and alumni network, of course, and then types of financial assistance. I know I just want to mention this because we do get a lot of questions about funding available for graduate studies, and it's certainly an important factor to look into right off the bat when you start thinking about pursuing a graduate program, understanding what a school has to offer in terms of the available programs, but also in terms of the funding available if that is a need for you. So all of these things and other considerations come together to help you determine what you're looking for in a graduate school and hopefully find a graduate school that's the best match for you and where you can contribute and be an amazing member of that graduate program. A little bit of information about GW. So we are located, as mentioned, in the capital of the US in Washington, D.C. While we have 3 campuses, most of the graduate programs that we talk with students about, especially international students, are located on our main campus in downtown Washington, D.C. We have over 25,000 students, and that includes 15,000 graduate level students. This is unique because many schools have more undergraduate students than graduates, and we're the opposite. I think this really speaks to the level of attention that graduate students get on our campus, the resources, the opportunities, the engagement, the organizations. Graduate student life is really thriving at GW, and so it's something that we would love for you to consider being a part of. In the School of Engineering, we have 6 academic departments, 11 fields of study, one of which is that MS and Data Analytics program that Dr. Helveston mentioned, which actually spans 2 departments, the Engineering Management and Systems Engineering Department and the Computer Science Department. Across the school, we have more than 80 tenured and tenure-track faculty members and 32 million and counting in research spending. And so that figure, again, is important because I think it really speaks to the opportunities that trickle down to our students, to the facilities that we have, to the research that we do, and all the things that our students can get engaged with during their time with us. This is our science and engineering hall. I just like to show students physically what it looks like to be at our school. This is where my offices, we have staff, we have faculty working across this building, we have classrooms, we have research laboratories, we have meeting space, all of these things. There are some sort of high-tech aspects of the building. We have things like a class 100 nanofabrication clean room. We have a high bay with strong wall and strong floor. So there's active research going on throughout the building. A lot of the building's walls are actually made of glass, and it's really interesting to walk through the building and you can really see the teaching that's going on, the research that's going on, and kind of feel like you're a part of it as you walk throughout the building. Here's a list of our MS programs that we offer at GW Engineering. And then here are the PhD programs offered. You'll see most of the same subjects. We have a few areas of specialization just within the MS programs, like data analytics and cybersecurity in computer science, that are offered specifically at the MS level. Of course, research in those subject areas are also being done within the PhD programs that we offer. And then just a quick overview. Again, I do try to always mention funding because it's something that we get a lot of questions about. Many schools, universities may approach this differently. So it's always important to ask the types of funding that are available for students coming into a program and if there's any funding available. For our programs at the School of Engineering, we offer master's level merit-based scholarships. So every student that applies to one of our master's programs will be considered for these scholarships, ranging from 25% to 75% of tuition cost. At the doctoral level, so if you're pursuing a PhD program, we do consider applicants for teaching and research assistantships, which would cover full tuition typically and a monthly stipend towards living expenses. So those are two different types of funding structures, depending on if you're applying to a master's or a PhD program. Career services are an important aspect of studying in the US. I know a lot of students, they're looking at program details, they're looking at location, and they may not look as deeply into the resources that are available for students within any certain institution. You will find career services centers at institutions all across the US. This is quite common. We are fortunate here at GW School of Engineering that we actually have the W. Scott Amy Career Services Center, which is engineering and computer science specific. It's located right within our engineering hall, and it caters specifically to students in our program. So helping ensure that you do a really thorough job search, that you are prepared, that your digital presence is up to date, and helping you secure whatever internships and professional opportunities you're looking for. They do individual coaching, job fairs, events, again, all catering specifically to our engineering and computer science students. As we mentioned before, location is important. For us at GW, that really means taking advantage of the DC location. We tend to have small to medium class sizes. We have researchers that are involved in industry, that are involved in government and policymaking and so forth. And we have a lot of connections throughout the city and the organizations and corporations that work around our city. You'll see some of the companies listed here on the screen that our students have gone on to have internships or full-time positions at. One thing that we really believe in at GW and is the heart of a lot of the programs that we offer is really interdisciplinary approaches to studying, working across fields, and ensuring that everything that you are learning is not learned in a vacuum. You're not only learning computer science programming throughout the course of your program, but you're learning how to program for good, how to, if you're learning AI, you're learning responsible AI, trustworthy AI, and so forth. So you're learning to really have real world application to all the technical skills that you're learning. And that's really important to us in our programs. I'll just point out that we have GW Engineering students who are called our graduate ambassadors. These are just a few of them. I think we currently have 8 graduate student ambassadors. One of the ones here is in our data analytics program, also MAE and computer science. But these students are available to chat with prospective students. So you can see the website mentioned below. This is linked from all pages of our website. They are happy to answer questions that you have about the student experience. And I think you'll find something similar across a lot of universities in the US. So a great way to really get to know if a school is the right fit for you, if a community is the right fit for you, is just chatting current students and asking your questions about what their experience has been like there in that program, living in that city, and so forth. And that's it for me. I'll turn it back to Sharang to navigate any questions that have come in. We're happy to talk with you more. I do want to mention that we offer, for all of the events that we host through Seed Global Education, we always offer participants an application fee waiver if you do decide that GW Engineering might be a great fit for you. We would love to hear from you. You can use the application fee waiver that's on the screen now to waive the $80 cost of application. My team's email address is also up on this screen, engineering@gwu.edu, and we look forward to engaging with you and helping answer any questions that you have. That's it for me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Erin. That was quite insightful as well to learn more about GW, to study at a university that is walking distance from the White House and from such wonderful locations, across the capital of the US. That is absolutely exciting. A lot of students that we have interacted with in the last few years did attend master classes like you are attending right now, did apply to GW using the application fee waiver, applied to scholarships offered by GW and via the Seed Global Education Scholarship Fund. Went to GW, currently are studying there or recently graduated. The ones that are graduated are also working, not just in DC, but also in places like the Silicon Valley, etc. So a lot of Indian students have gone through such webinars that you have attended. So if you are thinking about pursuing your MS programs, now is the best time to apply, especially if you're thinking for 2025, because the deadlines are approaching. What I'm going to do in the next couple of minutes is just take, some of the questions that have come. Dr. John has been kind enough to answer certain questions on the Zoom chat as well, which are around careers. But this is the last and final opportunity for you guys. If you have any questions related to GW or the topic that we mentioned, anything for the faculty, for students, careers, now is a good time for you to engage with some of the questions. Let's talk, first, I think Imran has asked an interesting question. Erin, if you could throw some light on some of the leadership opportunities that are offered for MS students while they are pursuing the program, something around extracurricular activities, just from a leadership perspective, because when they go into the, career phase, a lot of employers look for some leadership opportunities. So what does GW do? How can they prepare students to have some leadership exposure?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is something that I get really excited about for new students coming to GW. As I mentioned, we have a pretty thriving graduate student life. We have over 500 student organizations across GW, and some of those are open to all students. Some of those are specific to graduate students. It really depends on what you want to get involved with. We have a number of organizations that are specific even to engineering or computer science disciplines, data organizations, different things like that, based on your program of interest, like your area of interest professionally. We have a lot of other organizations. We have African student associations, we have Indian student associations, we have faith-based organizations, religious organizations, we have club sports. A lot of our students are interested in getting involved in a sport or just a social activity. All of these student organizations need student leaders, and they're typically rotated on a yearly or even semester basis as students come and go throughout their studies at the university. So definitely there's a lot of opportunities for involvement. We encourage students to dive into organizations like that right when they get to the university. Don't feel like you're new and you're not comfortable yet. Everyone's new. People are new in programs. People are switching from undergraduate to graduate, and you're there to try and experience new things. So I say step right into those types of organizations, try a lot of them out, figure out what is the best fit for you and where you find good opportunities for leadership and to really make a difference within the organization. But there's definitely tons of those opportunities available.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for that, Erin. I think that was very well summarized around life at GW. My next question, Dr. John, is someone named as Nanda Vishal. He met one of Erin's colleagues, Catherine, who was traveling across India, two different universities. They met at one of the universities in Bangalore. Nanda Vishal is asking about some of the research opportunities on campus. And I know that the admissions will have like a different answer to it. But as a faculty, could you try and share some insights about what is the research infrastructure that GW has to offer?
Certainly. So we are a R1 research institution. So that means we are among the most research active in the country. So all faculty here are actively doing research, and this is a huge part of what we spend our time doing. I would say one unique thing, just to mention it, is that there is a lot of blending of research in the classroom here. A lot of our coursework is very project-based, and a lot of times the faculty are bringing in some of the things they're working on into those projects. And so they might say, you can choose your project, or you could work on one of these three that I'm actually actively working on. I have seen cases happen where a class project turns into a paper effectively. So this is just one way just to emphasize that, there is, within the classroom alone, you'll see research going on. It's sprinkled throughout the program. In terms of other direct research working with a faculty member here, that's also not uncommon. The majority of the research is being driven by PhD students. So that's the program where you're here for 5 years and you're working on a dissertation. So those are certainly more research intensive, but many of us have RAs that we hire out of the master's program as well, to work with us on a specific project, maybe over a year or sometimes even just a semester. That's certainly, I do this as well. I've had over the years several students work in my labs, and those students always end up on the papers that we're writing at the end of the day too. So it's always good to have a publication with your name on it. But I would say there's a lot of sponsored research going on, meaning, we're applying for writing proposals. We're trying to get grants to support students, to fund them, and to work as researchers in our lab. So that's the main thing where the research is happening, is funded research. The other opportunity is you can do like an independent study type of thing with a faculty member. So you can take it for course credit. So here we're not hiring you as an RA, but you might find this topic that someone's working on really interesting, and you work with them over a semester and count it towards your course credit. So those are all the different ways that you can kind of get involved. A lot of that is, driven by you going around and searching. Go out and look at the faculty, look at their websites, see what they're doing, look at what you find that you want to contribute to or you're interested in, and be aggressive and talk to us, because when you show up at my door, I'm going to talk with you. And so go out and meet the faculty basically, and that's the way in. And then, of course, finally, all the other networking opportunities, right? Going to all these different events going on, you meet people, you meet faculty. That's the heart of it, is meeting the people and finding out what's going on here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Dr. John. I think that was very, very well summarized as well. I have a quick few questions for Erin. I'm just going to call it like a rapid fire question because it'll be quick. Does GW accept 3-year undergraduate degrees from India, or is 4 years mandatory?
For most of our programs, 4 years is mandatory. There are a few programs in other schools of GW. I'm not sure if it might be the Arts and Sciences School or the Business School that do consider 3 years degrees. So, and these requirements will also vary with universities across the US. So if you do have a 3-year degree from India, recommend just starting a conversation right with the admissions team of wherever you're considering and just being sure that they take 3-year degrees.
Wonderful. Or Meghna, you can pursue like a 4th-year degree. I think, like a quick short MS program in India will also make do. I did that when I was young, so that should be do. Yep. Applications deadline for international students, by when latest can they apply for 25, Erin?
Yeah, so right now we're taking applications for fall 2025. So both MS and PhD applications are open right now. The final deadline will be January 15th. And that's to start in fall or August 2025. We may continue to take MS applications after January 15th. There can be a little flexibility there, but generally encourage students to really pay close attention to the deadlines, especially if you are interested in funding. Those deadlines will be really important to be considered.
Superb. So Arpit, you have 3 months for you to complete your applications. 3 months from today, 15 January is the deadline. So, get everything sorted. The earlier you apply, I believe, the better chances of scholarships and, based on your profile. So, even though 15 Jan, don't wait till 15 Jan. If you have everything ready right now, spend a night and try and get everything in place. I'd like to now move on to Dr. John to try and understand a little bit about some of the innovation and startup support. I know we spoke a lot about research. In your experiences, what you've seen students, what you've seen at GW, could you throw some light on how are entrepreneurs or prospective entrepreneurs trained at GW?
Sure. So this is actually, I think, a particular strong suit at GW. We have a I-Core. We're part of this National Science Foundation I-Core program, which is an innovation core program, and we're actually a hub. So this is a nationwide program. It's different universities are part of it, but we are a hub, which puts us at a slightly higher sort of position in at least in terms of our support from NSF. And it's a well-established program. So this is a separate training program that you can participate in if you have an innovation, an idea, and you'd like to consider bringing it to market. You can go through this. I believe it's about 6 weeks long or so program where they go through the entire process of how do I understand my customer? How do I understand the market out there? I am tangentially related to this program in that, I have sometimes advised students going through the program. Obviously, from my presentation, I do a lot of market research, so this is very close to home for me. But that's a really fantastic program, and it's something that is, again, just sort of like side to a supplement to your formal education here. It just happens to be something we have here. So we have an Office of Innovation here. And I would say there's just a lot of very talented, smart people there who know a lot about the process of going from idea to market. So lots of support for that here.
Super. Thank you so much for that, Dr. John. Back to rapid fire with you, Erin. Sorry about that. But a lot of questions here around, which we see and which you might hear very often from prospective students is if they want to change their career trajectory. Maybe they've studied something in their bachelor's and they want to apply to a master's program, maybe in analytics. I think there's a question here about, someone's done a BS in food science and technology and wants to study, let's say, biomedical or engineering management. I think the other one, another student wanted to study data analytics, if I'm not wrong. And had a different undergraduate education. Could you throw some light on how does GW take people that are not having the relevant experience for the program or academic for the programs?
Yeah, absolutely. So among our graduate programs, you'll see different requirements. Some programs will look for a specific background in that field. So for electrical engineering, for example, they would prefer a degree and a background in electrical engineering. There are other programs, and data analytics is a perfect example where they're really looking for students with a diversity of backgrounds. There are some core requirements that we would look for a student coming into that program. So we might look to see, for example, have you taken a programming class? Have you taken a probability and statistics class? Things like that, but not necessarily looking for any specific degree, like subject area that you have to have a degree in X, Y, or Z area. So we'll look to see if you have the background necessary to succeed in the graduate level coursework, but definitely encourage students coming from different backgrounds, different subject areas. That's really part of what our programs thrive on. I will say for our program specifically, we try to post that information on our website as much as possible. So if you look at the data analytics program, it will say, we're looking for students from all backgrounds, and we're looking that you've completed the following few courses in your background. Same for computer science. We have a lot of career changers who are interested in computer science. They're looking for a couple specific courses, not necessarily a full degree in computer science.
Right. Awesome. Thanks for that. I think there were a couple of more questions. I think Emmanuel has a question. If you're applying in 2026, would we be eligible for the app fee waiver? Well, the app fee waiver code will be different for fall 2026. So I recommend that you be in touch with Seed Global Education, attend some of our master classes starting from August of 2025, which is when we help GW with the 2026 application. So is the code eligible for 26? Technically, no, but I would recommend that you attend some of our master classes early next year to be eligible for 26. What is the deadline for spring 2025? And do you take international applications? Shraddha has a question on that.
Yeah, we do. Our initial application deadline for spring 25 was actually September 1st, so it's passed. For PhD, we are not still considering spring applications. For MS, we could consider a spring application for a highly motivated student who could move really quickly through the process, but we are issuing I-20s right now. It's a little bit late in the cycle for spring 25. Those classes will start in early to mid-January, so just a few months from now.
And what is the deadline if someone has to apply for spring of 26? That's right. Yeah, spring 26.
September 1. Yeah, it'll be September 1. Yep.
Got it. Awesome. My last question, Dr. John, I think, we are almost running out of time. So I'm going to ask the last question, which is what a lot of, candidates usually ask. I can see some more questions coming in, but unfortunately we're out of time because we've only blocked 1 hour. Very important question about the pros and cons of having work experience before joining a master's program. I know it's not mandatory, but with your experience, how do you recommend that?
Certainly, it doesn't hurt. It's not required, but one of the things I think you can leverage if you do have some work experience is you can talk about how you've used some of the tools that we might even be teaching here. So if you've learned Python or you've learned how to code, tell us in your statement, how did you use it and what was your role? Your statements are really important too. We look at the requirements, the coursework and things like this, but it definitely makes a huge difference when we have a well-written statement that says, these are the things I've done. Or another example, maybe you didn't code, maybe you used Excel for your work, but you talked about what you did with it. I don't have this background, but that's why I'm coming to get it. I want to learn how to program and to upgrade my data analysis skills, but I'm very skilled in working in Excel. And here's some of the examples. And you have a letter writer from your employer who writes a very strong letter about how good, a job you did. Those things are immensely helpful. So if there's especially if there's any deficiencies, if there's something that seems to be maybe lacking in your program, well, your work experience could maybe offset some of that, and you could write about that and tell us more, because we will read through everything and we'll take a close look at it. So, I think it's, if anything, it certainly helps, but again, I'll say it's not required.
Superb. Thank you so much for that. There was one question around prerequisites and should you have solid A's and everything? No, the answer is no. I'll just, schools look at the holistic process. They'll not only look at your academics, but also your experience, and they'll also look at, how you have fared in your overall application and the candidature, and basis that they will take a decision. So even if you don't have A's in all subjects, or, as long as you have, consistently shown some progress, schools will look at your application and help you out with an intention of giving you an offer. Schools want to admit more people, and but they have to keep some bit of filters as well, which is what the application helps universities do. We've already run out of time. I'd like to thank Dr. John. I'd like to thank Erin, who's taken out time on their busy weekday morning, back in DC. And for the 250 of you that are still in this room, I'd like to thank you for spending the last 1 hour with us. I hope you've learned a little bit more about this particular university, and we wanted to get you like a sample class as to what life would be if you, as they say, go across the pond, which is the Atlantic. So I hope you decide to pursue your master's program. Studying abroad is a wonderful experience, and studying at a school like GW will certainly help you in your career in a long-term perspective. Once again, Dr. John, thank you so much. Erin, thank you so much. On the 244 of you, thank you so much for listening in, and we will be in touch.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye. Yep. See you.
Bye.
Bye.
See you.